Welcome to Nom Watch Review, part of Nom Talk Network. On the show, we review the latest film drop or throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie snacks and drinks. I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, and tonight, in honor of Ethan Kraft from the movie, I am having some lovely, lovely TikTok pasta. It's like Alfredo and like meat sauce mixed together. It's delicious, actually. Try it. And I am drinking a lovely, lovely beer because it has been a long, exhausting week after vacation. But I am so excited to introduce you to our guests tonight. We're going to have a great time talking about this movie. Toni, Yaya, and Steph, welcome. Yaya, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hi. So I am Yaya. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so super, super excited. This is a huge throwback for me. This is my childhood right here. I am eating some homemade dumplings. So we made it ourselves. Super excited. And then I love this plate. It has a little divot for my soy sauce and it's in the shape of a shell. And for a drink, summer's coming. I need to get that summer bod. So I am drinking some lemon water, just being healthy. And yeah, so super excited to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Steph, go ahead and introduce yourself. And this is the first time that we've been podcasting together. Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there and what you're eating and snacking on.
Hey, hi. My name is Stephanie, and I feel like I'm like not the demographic when this movie first came out. So I was already like way out of high school and stuff, but I had younger siblings and we'd still watch like the TV show on like the Disney Channel and everything. So, young in heart. So, and I have some Dr. Pepper today. That's my drink of choice. So, yeah.
Very nice. I am a Dr. Pepper stan. If it's soda, I'm going to drink Dr. Pepper.
I don't, none of the other stuff. Like, it has to be Dr. Pepper.
Unless I go to the movie theater, then it's cherry Coke for some odd reason. I don't know why. But thank you for being here. Toni, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there. What are you drinking and snacking on?
Hi, everybody. I'm Toni Sanchez, and I am a terrible guest, and I did not get my snacks in order before I sat down. So I might have to zip over and just grab something to drink real quick. So apologies if I just disappear for a quick moment.
Oh, you are way okay. Do it. That I'm focusing on that like fox wolf thing in the background because it's super adorable. So we'll just look at that.
It's a red panda.
Because then you get to do this. And it's just perfect cuddle. Like the only thing is that I wish she was weighted, but she's not. Yeah. Okay. She's still perfectly still.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Those things are super freaking ridiculously comfortable. I have way too many for my own good. But thank you guys for being here. I'm super excited to talk about this movie. For everybody out there, if you can't tell already, we are talking about the 2003 Lizzie McGuire movie, which is super cute, super like nostalgic. Before we get into it, I want to know if you guys had like been fans of Lizzie McGuire. Have you guys seen the TV show? We'll start with you on this one, Toni.
I don't know if I was the target demographic because I definitely was like firmly on like my way out of high school at the peak of Lizzie McGuire, but I still loved her all the same. I loved the show. The show was something that back when Disney Channel had that nice little core group of programming, it just wasn't on for that specific time. So Lizzie McGuire was just kind of everywhere for a while on Disney Channel. And then when this movie came out, again, I was already out of high school. I was firmly in college, and I still thought like it was like the most amazing, greatest thing ever, just because I loved Lizzie McGuire so much. The movie doesn't quite capture the TV show, like, but the spirit of it is there, just because there are things you can do with a TV show that you can't necessarily do with a movie. And so that would be like one of the only drawbacks I would say of this movie, especially as an adaptation of a TV show into a movie. But I thought it was awesome. I miss Lizzie McGuire. I wish she would come back. And I am one of those people who's really upset that Lizzie McGuire reboot didn't actually come through.
Same. Yeah. Did you ever watch the TV show like Lizzie McGuire? Were you a Lizzie McGuire fan before the movie came out?
I think this is the first time I'm probably the youngest on Nom Talk podcast. So I'm just like, this movie came out when I was in middle school. So yes,
Same.
okay. So we're the same age. Cool. but yes, I did watch Lizzie McGuire. It probably wasn't my absolute favorite, like, Disney show, but I did really like it. Hated Max as a kid. Oh my gosh, her little like snot nose of a brother. And then like rewatching the movie like recently again, and I was like, oh my god, it's so bad. He's so bad. But no, I was definitely probably the target demographic for this. I loved the TV show, and when the movie came out, I absolutely adored it, especially when she released the soundtrack for it too, and it was just playing on Radio Disney constantly. Oh my gosh, it was perfect. I loved it. And yeah, I actually enjoyed the movie more than I enjoyed the TV show.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Definitely enjoyed the TV show or the movie way more than the TV show, but the TV show did give me something that I liked about her, like the awkward
Oh yeah.
tween type thing. Was she had that on lock.
Mhm.
Steph, did you watch the TV show or anything before the movie or anything like that?
Yeah, I did watch a TV show. Like, I watched that and like Even Stevens. Those are like my two Disney shows. And it's funny because like I'm like elder millennial. So it kind of, I was thinking about it right now, how it kind of reminds me of like almost like Clarissa Explains It All, kind of like, dates me. But it kind of, it's like for that generation. So, just very like, cool, awkward, but kind of like your own beat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just like follow your own beat, like everything like that. No, I'm right there with you.
It's like all of our awkward like
kind of
middle
in a way.
school.
So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So before we get into our popcorn ratings, because I'm dying to hear what you guys think, I am going to break down the movie a little bit. Rotten Tomatoes has been doing me well with these breakdowns of the movies because they actually do a lot. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it says, during summer break, Lizzie McGuire and her closest pals head off to an on-school sponsored journey to Rome. Before long, she makes the acquaintance of Paolo Vasari, a local music sensation whose duet partner looks exactly like Lizzie. Since Paolo and his collaborator recently feuded, Lizzie agrees to stand in for the girl at a massive concert and pretends to sing while a recording plays. But things don't go as planned, and she must rely on her own vocal chops. And a lot of other things ensue. I'm interested to, since we all just watched this, find out what your popcorn ratings are. We'll start with you on this one, Toni. What was your popcorn rating and why?
I give the Lizzie McGuire movie a 4 out of 5 popcorns. A big reason why I don't give it a 5 out of 5 is because Miranda's not here. Lizzie's the Miranda is not the movie. And they explain that away to say, like, some people decided to go on this Rome trip. Some people decided to go to some trip to a water park. And Miranda decided to go to visit relatives in Mexico City. So she took a family trip as opposed to a class trip. So while I think that the movie does a good job about covering for the absence of Miranda, I loved Miranda. I loved her so much. I myself am Mexican, so the fact that Miranda is also Mexican was just like a really nice little piece of representation for me, especially during a time when representation was not exactly like, I don't want to say the trend or the buzzword that it is now, but it's like now we're firmly in this place of like, now we need to move towards representation. Like that's just now a thing that we do. Back then, only like 20 years ago, it wasn't as much of a concern. And that's just because it just wasn't. So for a lot of reasons. Yeah, so I really do love this movie. I think that, I mean, I'm going to talk a lot about this, but I think it's like a perfect little travel movie. I think it perfectly captures like that magic of like going on a trip to a place that you've never been before. I think that that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot because it is a tween movie. I also think that it does capture the essence of the TV show in, all the things and paranoia that you have, like as a middle schooler, as a tween, even as a high schooler and a young adult. Like when Kate makes fun of Lizzie for being an outfit repeater, nobody else is caring about your outfit. I promise you. But and to this day, I'm still like, oh no, I only have so many clothes, and people are gonna know, they're gonna find me out that I'm an outfit repeater. Oh no. So yeah, I just love this movie for so many reasons. I don't want to just get into it all right now, but yeah, 4 out of 5.
No, I'm right there with you. At this point in my life, though, I'm old enough to be like, I don't care if I wear the same outfit or you've seen this hoodie like 4 times. It's comfortable and I'm comfortable. But before I get to the rest of your popcorn ratings, I am going to jump to the chat because Q, hi Q, has redeemed hydrate for us, but also take a bite. So take a bite and hydrate, or hydrate and then take a bite.
Got some strawberries and water, so those are my snacks for tonight.
Healthy.
I'm trying to be.
But Steph, we'll go with you on the next one for the popcorn rating. What did you rate this movie and why?
Okay. I rated 3.5 popcorns. Or 5. I think it's a really cute movie. It's, it's like you said, like, traveling to places you haven't been before. I don't know, I guess I like the show more than the movie. And I think that, like Toni said, like, I wish Miranda was there. Could have been like, another like her core friends. Cause like I do like how like Kate kind of softens in the movie, because like she's like arch enemy, and then she kind of like helps her out and stuff. But I don't know, I just feel like when you get older, you're like, see, like there's like so many red flags. So like I'm just like, and she's like Lizzie's like, tween, she's impressionable and all that stuff. And I don't know, maybe just me like thinking in reality when it's like really just like, kind of like a fun, like little like fantasy, kind of Disney vibe movie. But I think that's why I rated it, because it's like believable, but also like not believable. And you're just like, okay, maybe it's just because like, my age now, depending compared to like watching it, like, 20 years ago. So.
Yeah. No, I totally get where you're coming from. Yaya, what was your popcorn rating? I know you and Steph were right along the same lines.
So I also gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I think if you asked younger Yaya, it would have been like a 4 or 5 out of 5. But rewatching it like last week, just to just to what's that word? Just to review it. It became a 3.5 because I was just kind of noticing like, wow, there's like a lot of things. I was just kind of like, acting wise, pacing wise, believability wise, it was very and it very much played on the trope, like, as I believe Toni mentioned earlier, about going to like a new place and like that whole idea of adventure, because I had that when I was a kid. I remember like going to like Taiwan or Hong Kong and I'd be like, oh yes, adventure, like maybe like my true love will find me here. And then like live out this like whole thing, because I was like an avid fan. I still am, but I was even more of an avid fan fiction reader. And you have all of those trope where it's like, that chosen girl kind of thing, and it was really cute. It was really cute for this movie. But I think it was just a lot of the acting and a lot of stuff for me that just made it a little bit like maybe not, but it was still pretty good as a nostalgia, as a thing. It was still amazing. Please excuse me, I gotta go chase after my dog. She ran off.
Go ahead. We are going to actually jump into the chat really quick because Q Ball has also just given us his popcorn rating. Q Ball says, I remember watching it once and thought, wow, Hillary and Miley were really fighting over the top spot for Disney as their top star. Both of them are ridiculously talented, but I think this movie was really corny and cheesy. I felt awkward in some parts of the movie. His rating is 3.5 out of 5. So right with Steph and Yaya. My rating is a 3 for this movie. Like Yaya was saying, I'm pretty sure younger tween me would have given this like a 5 or 6 because it was just right up my alley and that's what I wanted. Going back and viewing it now, it still gives me nostalgia reasons that why I like it. Like, this is what dreams are made of, and the dress, and like running around Rome, because as one of my roommates said last night, I'm pretty sure for the longest time anything I knew about Rome was because of this movie. So but like watching it now, the story is just not there for me. Like, together, the pacing and just like the connections of everything are just off for me. The acting is not 100%. to me, it felt like they tried to do what they were doing in the TV show of doing their little hijinks and stuff like that with everything, but weren't pulling it off for a feature length film. And so that's why I had to give it a 3, unfortunately. But moving on, I did want to jump into this storyline because it is kind of all over the place. We get the middle school graduation, which one might I say, whose middle school graduation looks like that? But we go from the middle school graduation all the way to Rome, and her and Gordo make this pact that they're going to have adventures. And first day out, she meets Paolo, and he says that he wants to be friends with her, that he looks like her friend, and he whisks her around the city for pretty much the entire movie, taking her shopping and seeing sights and everything. And then lo and behold, she has to perform at the music festival, music awards at the end, which she's supposed to lip sync, and come to find out he's a lip syncer, she's not. But Lizzie McGuire's alter ego in this movie, Isabella, ends up showing up and saving her. They have this Lizzie duet thing, and then they fly home and Lizzie still gets grounded. Toni, what are your thoughts on this storyline and kind of like the pacing and how it jumps and everything like that?
Me?
Yes, Toni.
Sorry, my internet is just kind of coming out at the most
Yeah.
time, so apologies.
Right.
Story, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things happening here, right? Like this movie serves as the capstone for the entire Lizzie McGuire franchise. So this is technically the end. This is the finale of the whole Lizzie McGuire franchise. So it has to do that. It's also doing this sort of like Prince and Pauper, sort of like Roman holiday. It's doing this tween fantasy, right, of just being recognized for the person that you believe you are inside, but that, man, if only all these insecurities would stop getting in the way of me being this fabulous international pop star that I know myself to be, like, then my life would just be amazing. And I would, catch the eye of some dreamy, hunky Italian man. And I would get to go ahead and, have awesome nails and eyebrows that match. Finally. I mean, like, it's every single little fantasy of not just people who go to a new place and think like, oh, new place, new me, but also specifically of like this tween fantasy of like, I'm an independent person. I can do this. I can, be more independent than people believe me to be. I can definitely be more confident than people think that I can. So all of that really does work for me. And the little secure middle schooler that I was, people talk about how high school was not great. Middle school wasn't that great for me because you're weird and you're awkward and there's puberty and then there's friends and then nobody really tells you how to dress appropriately. And then I was going through those jean code times, so I don't know why that was the
I
thing.
was about to say,
Good. Yeah,
jean jeans and oversized hoodie were my jam. That's what it was.
I was wearing 3X shirts as a 12-year-old because I thought that was the jam, and nobody told me. Nobody pulled me aside. So, so much of this that I really relate to, especially I think I'm remembering so vividly about my time there. I think that's why I'm so forgiving towards it. I'll totally agree to most of the things that you talked about, how some of the things are not believable. To see Alex Borstein, who plays Miss Ungermeyer, the principal, the chaperone, and to believe that Liz McGuire really could fool her by like, I'm sick, please. I'm fine. I'll just stay here all day in this hotel room without supervision, any kind, because it's totally believable that only one person would be watching this group of 20, 30 high schoolers. Please go. So there's definitely some things that I just am willing to forgive just because I'm so like into the fantasy of it all. But I dig it ultimately.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there. I dig it, but like those plot holes, like especially at the end of the movie where Gordo takes the blame for her and he's like, I've been the one sneaking out, but we're like, he's been there the entire time talking to you, and like how is that? Nobody noticed.
Or the fact that they're like, Gordo, go home, and they send him home to the airport completely by himself. Whatever. Again, I'm too much in the fantasy that none of that happened.
Stephanie, what are your thoughts on the storyline and the pacing and everything of this movie?
Well, I like part of the storyline.
You still there, Steph?
I think
Okay, we're gonna give it a moment. Yeah, we'll jump to you, and if Stephanie
Okay.
pops in, what did you think about the pacing of the storyline?
okay, so pacing wise, okay, it actually was pacing wise, it wasn't the worst. Like, things were progressing at a decent pace that I wasn't either getting bored. I almost said scared. I'm like, wait, that's not a horror movie. I wasn't bored or I wasn't overwhelmed with like what was going on. It was actually pretty decent pacing throughout everything that was happening. I do want to say though, like the privilege that this middle school has, I'm just like, it has to be a private school. The fact that their end of like graduation thing is going to Rome,
Right.
I'm like, and then the fact that her parents were able to just drop everything at a bat and go to Rome.
Yeah.
Like when they're like, I miss my sister.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I've never noticed how privileged they were. I'm just like, yo, this is definitely a private school.
Yeah.
Definitely a private school. But for me, it was like, I don't know. It was just like a lot of things was just kind of, I just the unbelievability of it. It's like, same thing. It's like the fact that there's one chaperone for 20 kids.
Yeah.
One chaperone for 20 kids. And that they're able to like, and the fact that Lizzie was never like stranger danger and goes around Rome with this, like, I guess Paulo's
Stranger danger doesn't apply to hot Italians.
No.
Well, we've all seen Taken. We know what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on the back of like a moped of this guy and his like adult big like bodyguard.
Yeah.
And she's like this tiny little girl. I'm just like, girl, things happened. Ted Bundy happened. It's like, don't do this. But yes, it's just like a lot of this stuff. And I didn't notice at first was like, when Lizzie was interacting with Gordo and then like she was like, oh man, really? Oh, I don't think I can do this. And it was just her acting was just so bad. I never noticed how bad it was. It was just like, it's like, oh no, really? Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's just, I don't know. But other than that, like soundtrack was amazing. Like I think for me, biggest thing was the soundtrack of this movie. When I was rewatching it again, all of the songs were all the songs from like I was jamming out to when I was in middle school, and this like I could not stop singing with it. And my cousin who was watching it with me was all like, yeah, shut up, stop. It's like, how do you know these songs? And I'm like, this is my tweens.
Mhm.
But definitely, other than like, it's very much fantasy. It's very much what like, we want as children, or as like, a really as a tween teenager, where we're coming into ourselves, we're learning our own identity. So the want to become like, our own individual, to be unique, to be seen for our uniqueness. And that's probably why like a lot of our generation now are probably really into book talk. It's because it's the exact same thing. It's like wanting to be like kidnapped by that really hot mafia boss,
Yeah.
or like being like the fated like soulmate of like the high fae like king or something. You can tell I'm really into book talk. But it's very much that. It's like Lizzie McGuire was going that, except it wasn't. It was very much like the Wattpad, like, oh, I'm so petite. Oh my gosh, like, what's his name from One Direction falls in love with me. And then we go to Jackson Wang's party. So yeah, it's like, it gives me very much book talk and that kind of stuff, which I really enjoy. It was just the believability as an adult, but of course, as children, it was really good. Yeah, I'm going to stop.
We were right there with her. No, I totally agree with you. It's like the fantasy that we all wanted as tweens or teens, like independence, grown up, but like this worldwide adventure in Rome. That's what I wanted as a teenager. I never really got that, but that's what I wanted. The pacing and story for me is that the pacing for a couple of scenes, especially like him taking her around Rome and stuff like that, I feel like they could have done that like in a montage really quickly, not as much as they did do it. Issue that I really did have was the way that Lizzie was treating Gordo, just by like leaving him and just kind of like, okay, I'm out, like cover for me. Like he did that before for her in the TV show, but it just wasn't my jam. Like I hated that. Plus, like I said, I was getting Taken vibes from Paolo the entire time. I was like, this is literally happening across the world. Like you are going to be put into sex trafficking, and what is going to happen to you, Lizzie McGuire? That's what I was getting now that I'm adult. Back then, I didn't care. Now I'm just like, oh, Lizzie, don't do that. Don't get on that moped. Don't get in that car. Don't go into a dark theater with this man you don't know. That's my issues with this movie. I'm just like, now as an adult, I'm like very like
Yeah.
But right there with you, yeah, with the music in this was a bop. Like even last night after like I finished watching it, I had to listen to Clean by Hilary Duff because all of her music was just popping into my head, and I was like, this is my middle school years. Let me listen to more Hilary Duff.
No, this whole week after watching, I was like, hey now, this is my the whole week stuck in my head.
Oh yeah, no, my partner, because I watched it again early today, and I was sitting there and like wasn't even looking at the TV and just singing along with it. He was like, "You really know this movie?" I was like, "This was my tween girl fantasy. Okay, leave me alone."
Yes, we do.
Steph, we did lose you there for a little bit, but what were your thoughts on the story and the pacing of this movie?
The story wise, it's just like everyone says, like kind of fantasy in a way, fantasy, like, going this grand trip to like Rome and everything, and like, meeting mysterious, foreign man, foreign boy, I guess. But I guess like for me, it's just like the story, just like, I don't know, like how willing she was. So like, he's all telling her, you gotta lip sync. Like she didn't think about any of that stuff. Like, okay, I guess I'll do it. She's being like a yes girl. I'm like, no girl, don't, like, she never questioned anything. And I feel like as we're teens or tweens, that's like, how we are. You don't really you kind of like so naive and thinking like, that, okay, well, he tells me this and I should believe him. And now when you get older, watching this, you're like, like, that's why I think it's like red flags like all around. And for her to like, to get, like, I feel like it was a cool experience for her, but to like go around like Rome, I'd rather like do that than just follow some like Italian like boy. She could have had like way more cooler adventures and not be grounded when she got home. So if she didn't do what she did, but and like I'm trying to figure out too, like during a dance scene, if that was her or a dance double, because I
think it was a dance double.
It is.
double. Okay, yeah.
There's a reason why they didn't show her face during that time.
Yeah, it's at the back, and like it looked like a wig, like at points. I'm like, I don't think it's really.
And then she got taller a little bit. You could see her proportion. It's like that's a dancer body.
Yeah.
No, they during that last This Is What Dreams Are Made Of, there was a lot of in and out of different people, dancers, and two different singers, including Hilary Duff. There was Hilary Duff's sister, and the girl who sings the original theme song to the Lizzie McGuire at the end of that song. So there was a lot of in and out of that. Yeah. Where was I going with this? I can't remember what my next question is. But what I do want to jump into until I remember what I was going to say, I want to talk about this cast. Because yes, they did bring a lot of people from the TV show. They brought Hilary Duff, who obviously played Lizzie and Isabella. They brought Adam Lamberg, who played Gordo. Haley Todd, who played her mom, Jo. Robert Carradine as her dad, Sam. Jake Thomas as her little brother, Matt. Ashley Brialt as Kate, the bully in middle school, and Clayton Schneider, who was Ethan, who Lizzie was in love with. But then they also included different ones, like Alex Borstein as Miss Ungermeyer, which I thought was fantastic casting. Yanni Gelman as Paolo, and one of actually my favorite, even though he doesn't talk much or do much, Brandon Kelly as Sergey. Paolo's like bodyguard. Love. What were you guys' thoughts on this cast? Do you think they played well together, especially coming from the TV show and including newer people? We'll start with this one, with you on this one, Yaya.
Okay, so I actually really like of course, like you want to have as much as the original cast as you can, because it's the Lizzie McGuire movie. But I actually really love all of the new cast as well. I think they do play very much really well off of each other, even though like I think, as I said, the worst acting probably was from Hilary Duff. In reaction to everyone else, but I think everyone does have really good chemistry, and each one has their own like uniqueness that you're kind of like, oh. The only thing that for me was how Paulo wasn't, even towards the end, I think they had either it was the actor or they had him play, it was just, you couldn't even really hate him as an adult though. Maybe as a kid, you're like, oh my god, how could he do this to her, that's so bad. But as excuse me, rewatching it, I was watching and I'm like, I actually don't hate him as much as I did as a kid, because I was like, feel like he played it too nice, he played it too innocent. There was no malice, like he couldn't, and I guess it's because it's a Disney film, I don't know, but Disney can be dark. But like none of it.
They used to kill off parents in Disney all the time, and we used to see it. They need to bring that back, actually, but
they need to bring
that's
that
a different podcast.
But like there was none of that, like, like Paulo legit seemed like a green flag at, like, the way that he was, like, trying to like be very supportive of her. Even yes, he wasn't like actually overly pushy. He made it seem like he would respect her decisions if she decided not to do it. He like, one, he didn't take her to anywhere sketch. That's already a pretty big plus. Like this, the way that he interacted, he seemed so supportive of everything. And in the end, like, even when he was like, oh, he just stormed off the stage, he didn't lash out, he wasn't angry, he wasn't anything. I kind of felt bad for him, not gonna lie, as an adult, even though Sergey was all like, oh, you hurt that girl, she was so nice, da-da-da, how could you? And he like had to like storm off. But then I was like, I think Paulo was too innocent, looking wise and acting wise, and I think that was just my major thing with that characterization as an adult.
Oh yeah, no, I think they pulled Yanni, the guy who played Paulo. I think that was one of his first credits that he ever did. But he was very green.
Okay.
He was just and like cute. He was that Disney boy. They were like attractive Disney boy with the nice hair, slender, maybe not muscles, but slender enough, tall, like good tan. He was the typical early 2000s heartthrob that all of us were just like, oh, look at him. Yeah. But he was still very green, so I get exactly with you. Like, he didn't bring the malice or the contempt to him. Toni, what were your thoughts on this cast? Like, over? I mean, Alex Borstein, come on.
I do want to say though that while I do agree that like Paulo's actor is probably just a little too innocent looking, but I think that's also kind of the point. Also now, like, I think that we would call his behavior love bombing.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, I totally get this, because she's being so agreeable, because Lizzie is naive, and then this fantasy world that they've placed her in, because the Lizzie McGuire world is very much entrenched in fantasy. She's not worried about being carted off and sold off to the Ukraine. So
it could still happen.
We don't know what happened after this movie. But yeah, I think that the reason why I just bought into the fantasy of the Disney Channel movie on a big screen. So I think that was something that was successful for them, just because they were like, well, we feel no need to add any additional realism. And part of that was this cast, including Alex Borstein, because Alex Borstein, I mean, she is chewing every single scene that she is in, like, to the nth degree. And I just was like, this is not a real person. I so wish she was. Her very first line in this movie is attention parents, shut your pie holes. And I was like, oh my god, that's exactly everything I've ever wanted a teacher to say to parents, because some of these parents suck. And I loved her. I thought she was great. I don't think, like, I think I say gelato just like her at least like once every 2 weeks. She's just fantastic. She's amazing. And I think that she was, let's see, I think Family Guy was like late 90s, like 98, 99-ish, I think is when they first started. So she was already like, doing a lot of stuff on the back end, from like writing and voice acting. And, this is definitely not her first film credit. And so I just really love how, like, this is the thing that we can look back and be like, oh yeah, it's the same person that you've been watching and hearing for years. And then to see her in this role where you're just like, that is 100% in line with what I know about this person, how amazing she is, how charismatic she is on the screen. And to take a character that is over the top in every single way. Yeah, I totally buy into that. I totally buy into this fantasy bubble that they've created with this cast. I really do like how the lack of Miranda, because I think at this point, Lelaine, the actress, was trying to explore other things. So I think the reason why she's not here is because purely of scheduling. So I do like they do pull Kate and allow her to be a little bit more three-dimensional than she ever was in the TV show. So that's also a plus. Poor little Ethan. Ethan Kraft has nothing to do here other than just like do slow curve a couple of times and whip his hair every so often, and that's it. Yeah, but I love this cast. I'm very glad to see them at least in this last hurrah.
Oh yeah. No, my favorite is Alex Bornstein in this movie. Like anything she does in anything, starting with Mad TV, Family Guy, this, even like the things I've seen from the Marvelous Miss Maisel, which I have not watched, but like the clips of her I've seen, she fully goes into characters, which I thoroughly enjoy. Absolute favorite character in this movie, just her little cheekiness and like playfulness about it. But Steph, what are your thoughts about this cast and like the newcomers versus with the old people from the show, if I could phrase that better?
Oh, I think both of them.
Oh, I think both of them. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're gonna do until Stephanie pops back on, what we're gonna talk about is wow, we actually have a poll that we can talk about. All right, so Cue Ball has sent us a poll. He said this one's going to be tough for us to decide. Cue Ball says, which character do you think has the most strong fan base? Hannah Montana or Lizzie McGuire? I'll give you guys a moment to think about that. On my aspect of things, I would have to say probably Hannah Montana. For sure, because when Hannah Montana came out for me, I was a little bit older, so I wasn't in that Miley Hannah Montana phase thing with but from what I saw of fans, like there was craziness. Like even when the Hannah Montana movie came out and like she revealed herself being Miley, like people like were actually legitimately shocked that she was not Hannah Montana, which was super crazy, which led to like Miley Cyrus like going in and trying to depart from Disney so hard. So I have to say the Hannah Montana fan base is way, way stronger. Toni, we'll go with you on this one for the poll.
I think this is definitely apples to oranges. Lizzie McGuire was only on, I think, for 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah Montana, I think, was a few more seasons than that. And then, as you mentioned, the line between Hannah Montana versus Miley Cyrus kind of becomes so blurred to me that the Hannah Montana fandom is the Miley fandom rather than for the character or the franchise. Meanwhile, Lizzie McGuire, I think that, we're kind of missing the key element of Lizzie McGuire, which was the internal monologue, which were the animated sequences. And that was like, we hadn't really seen that utilized in such an effective way, especially to describe like the young teen girl experience in such a light way, and in such a direct way. The fact that, we could go back and I really, maybe if we ever do have time to like go back and talk about the show, some of those animated sequences are just like, to this day, they hold up. And especially like the humor around them, the punchlines. So I think me myself, I'm biased. I love Lizzie more. I always have. And then because that Hannah Montana fandom was just something that was so convoluted, where Miley was, the Hannah Montana thing was a self-insert, right? Miley Cyrus, the actress, but also the performer, and then also inhabiting this character where the character is actually much more closer to Miley Cyrus's own ambitions. versus Lizzie McGuire as played by Hilary Duff, which is totally like actor and character. Like there is no meshing. So it's just yeah, I don't know if I could really pick one over the other just because it's not a fair comparison. It's not an equal comparison. Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a good question. So now that Steph's back, I do want to jump it back before I get your guys' views about the poll. But Steph, what did you think about this cast between the TV show and the movie and like how they combine? And then you can go ahead and go right into the fan bases between Hannah Montana and Lizzie McGuire if you want to as well.
Okay. Well, like so like I like Alex Borstein. I wish she had more scenes in the movie. I think she was just really like, fun to like watch. And I have agree like I wish they gave like Ethan the actor by Ethan like more. He was just kind of like like he was like just there, like just to say like his one-liners or whatever, and like like he was just there to just be, and then because it was Ethan, So, but I really do like. For me, it was like the chemistry between Kate and Lizzie. You don't get to like see, because you would think that like being in the movie that they're just gonna be like hating on each other. It's gonna be just like the TV show, and then later on you can see that she does have like there's like an understanding, and she's not as like mean as she like appears to be, and for her to like really give Lizzie the heart to heart, like, hey, Gordo did this. He told them that he was like the one who was sneaking out to like protect her. And she kind of gave her like that advice that she like needed. So but yeah, I just think that the cast is like pretty good, like meshing with the new ones too. So but I do like how like some of the characters in the cast, they kind of like they grow more than what they are on the TV show. So
oh yeah, for sure. Speaking about the cast, because I was gonna wait until all of us finish talking, Lelaine, who played Miranda, actually I have a little known fact about this. Even though they said like she was like pursuing music and movies and everything like that, somebody in the chat has also stated this as well. She actually was kicked out of Disney at this point. She had been caught with drugs. This is when like she became one of those tween Disney like tragic cases. She got actually caught with a lot of methamphetamine in her pocket, and she got kicked out of Disney, and she really didn't do much after this, which is very unfortunate because she was so talented, and I wish she would have gone further.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why she was not in this movie, unfortunately. But
doing some roles. I remember her popping up in Buffy. So I think she does have a few more credits, but honestly, I've not kept up with what she's actually done since Lizzie McGuire.
She did Buffy, and then you remember that movie Easy A?
Yeah.
She was. Yeah, she's like a side
character.
You're right.
But like her drug problem like was a big theme that like popped up, and so she unfortunately got kicked out of Disney because of it. But getting back to the poll, Stephanie, we'll go back to you. Which one do you think has a stronger fan base, Hannah Montana or Lizzie McGuire?
I probably would have to say, like, I know they're like tastes are different, but I would still have to say like Hannah Montana, just because I feel like in like Hannah Montana, it kind of like brought over like other things, like thinking about like Jonas Brothers, like Demi Lovato. I think because then this whole new like side of Disney where it's like performers / like singers on a TV show, not just like where Hilary Duff had like her TV show and also had to put out music. It was like intertwined to each other, but together. So it's kind
of. Oh, I think we lost her a little bit again. We'll get back to Finisher. Yaya, what are your thoughts on this poll?
Well, if you want to say like most strong, I definitely say Hannah Montana. Like I think hands down, it is Hannah Montana. I think it's also just timing. Lizzie McGuire came out during a time, I think it was just like when we were really young and we didn't actually have the opportunity to grow with, well, as I said, as Toni said earlier, it was very much Lizzie McGuire and Hilary Duff. It wasn't as like, it was just the actress and the character. While as you said earlier, was like Hannah Montana was Miley Cyrus. Miley Stewart was Miley Cyrus. The fact that even her dad played her dad, but at the same time, it was also just timing. Like we were in a way able to grow with Miley. We were able to like, you know, see that like, you know, from the beginning of like Hannah Montana to like the point, and then to the point that when Miley left Disney and did all the crazy stuff, and then now it's like we are growing. We see that all of that with her, and that's what I think Hannah Montana just has such a strong fandom as opposed to Lizzie McGuire, is because that I think it's just timing. I think it was just she got lucky, and then at that time Disney also was really pushing for Miley to like get bigger and bigger and bigger, and with her whole music career, because when you had Lizzie McGuire, like the soundtrack, it was not like, you know, Lizzie McGuire singing. It's Hilary Duff's album, while Hannah Montana, it's still her music. So it wasn't as much of like able to connect with her as a person, as opposed to connecting with Miley Cyrus.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from on that. Stephanie, I'll let you go.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I was cruising around IMDb trivia because that's where I do all my research. They mentioned this rule that Disney used to have for their TV shows, that they didn't go past a set amount of episodes, which equated to about like 3 or 4 seasons max, 3 seasons. Which explains a lot, because I just remember being like, yeah, why did that end the way that it did? And I guess it was at the end of this particular generation of like early millennium Disney Channel programming, where they kind of like said like, well, we'll keep going as long as it's successful, instead of implementing the hard and line rule of like X amount of episodes or X amount of seasons. But yeah, I think that that's also probably another reason why these fandoms don't get to expand to the level that other fandoms get to, just because sometimes it takes a minute for you know, to develop that relationship. Some fandoms are able to do a lot with very little, but yeah, I especially think like with the Disney Channel thing, especially just because there was such a revolving door of new series, new people, new characters, new actors, new stars, you know, whoever it was that the Disney, you know, I hate saying it this way, but the Disney machine was pushing out at that time. Yeah, I think it just becomes a little difficult to kind of gauge the strength of a fandom, especially when it's sort of like held to this arbitrary, you know, deadline.
Yeah.
Lizzie McGuire, though, there was supposed to be another season after this, but then there was conflict between Hilary Duff and Disney that they decided just to nix everything.
There were a couple more episodes after this movie to where she did like transition into college, but it didn't really like just to fulfill that contract that Toni was talking about what they were doing. Disney at this time was a lot of the kids need to look like this kid forever, so we're going to film as much as we can between the ages of like 11 and 13, and then they're gone. That's why that came into a lot of the process. But Steph, what were your final thoughts on this, the Hilary Duff or the Lizzie McGuire Hannah Montana?
I guess saying that like Hannah Montana, just I feel like it's ushered like a whole new like era for Disney when it came to like having like more like music heard than like no, like yeah, I just feel like, because then it kind of brought like other Disney stars, like, you know, like Jonas Brothers, you know, Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, like this whole new era of like where it's, you know, of Disney, these stars, because of like, you know, the families of Hannah Montana and stuff. So because they were trying to find someone that was more like her than maybe say like Lizzie McGuire.
No, like Toni said, the Disney machine now has taken on to a different level of now you have to act, dance, sing, tour the world, make movies, make clothes, come out with perfumes, dance on your back. Like you have to do everything, and then they just use you. Look at Dove Cameron. Like Dove Cameron was used for what, 6-7 years, and then she finally was like, nope, I'm done. I'm getting tattoos, and you don't like that, so I'm out. But I did want to bring up before, because we're kind of getting towards the end here, I did want to bring up, like Toni, I do my research on IMDb as well, and it also has just gotten brought back up into the chat. There were plans to do another movie, another Lizzie McGuire movie, but unfortunately, the negotiations fell through with the Disney Studios and Hilary Duff and her mom and everything, because they did not want to pay Hilary Duff what she was worth. So the mom was like, thank you, but no thank you. We're out, and left, which also gives me very happy feelings because I feel like Hilary Duff is one of the only early 2000s stars that hasn't fallen off the deep end because of her mother, and doing that and being like, not being that like workhorse that like all the other parents I felt like were. What are you guys' thoughts about like there not being a second movie in this whole like money situation? We'll start with you on this one, Toni. Maybe.
I'm not sure. What did they say? Like what that second movie would have been about? Would it just been about Lizzie in high school, or
it actually was never even got to like
that
script, just because negotiations between Hilary and the studio, they didn't want to pay her. So the mom was like, nope, we're not even talking about this. Bye.
I mean, I really lament that, just because I love the Lizzie McGuire show. I love the franchise. I love the world that it creates. I love the character of Lizzie. I find her being one of the rare characters, as irritating as we find Hilary Duff's brand of child acting at this point, where she really is playing to the rafters, which is weird because when you do that with a camera, it comes off weird. And that's what she's doing. She's very much like she's playing to the cheap seats. And Lizzie McGuire is one of the few tween characters that I do not find annoying or irritating or just completely insufferable. And that's a really fine line to tread, just because that sort of innocence and optimism can very easily, like we've talked about, just veer wildly into like, what are you doing? That's not the thing to do. Please stop that. This is so cringy and awful. And I love how they do, especially on the show, lean into the cringiness of Lizzie McGuire. I keep on having that one scene of like, I want a bra. Like, I love that scene because it's just like, yeah, that is just so painful and awkward, but you're still able to do it in this really endearing way. So I think that is a credit to Hilary Duff. It's a credit to them having a character, and especially with that the animated inner monologue. I think that was just like a really awesome way of doing that. So it sucks that we didn't get more Lizzie McGuire, and especially with that reboot that just fell apart, especially because Hilary Duff has been very vocal and very transparent about they wanted to have a more realistic take on Lizzie McGuire, about Lizzie McGuire being, I think she's like firmly, into her adult life, like, with a kid and exploring certain, issues, and they pulled the plug on it. And I'm really, really upset about that, just because they were like, I think firmly into like 4 or 6 episodes where they finally pulled the plug. And that just sucks so bad, because it's like Hilary Duff, really great, still works, still consistently, works in a lot of different arenas, especially TV. The cast, awesome, amazing. And it would have been nice to revisit these characters. So yeah, that really sucks. I hope someday we do get a peek into Lizzie McGuire. Maybe I just need to read more Lizzie McGuire fan fiction. I don't
know. No, I am disappointed that this newer reboot as well did not come up. And I'm glad that Hilary Duff stuck to her guns and was like, didn't want it to become like Raven's Home, the new That's So Raven. Mm-hmm. So glad she was like, that's not what we're doing. We're going to make this for the people who grew up with me. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Steph, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I got cut out, like when you're asking the question earlier, like my Zoom like crashed. So was it like they're gonna do a second movie and it just didn't go through, or?
Yes. So there were plans to do a second movie, but between Disney Studio and Hilary Duff, they didn't want to pay her to do it. So the mom said, we're out, and took Hilary Duff, and Lizzie McGuire was over, and then the whole reboot thing that Disney was shooting and then canned as well. What are your thoughts on this?
I just think it's kind of like, when you think about like corporations, or like they have like, that person that they're making money off of, but yet they don't want to like pay them what they're worth. So I think it's like, I'm kind of glad that she said that, like, oh, I'm, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, then I'm not going to like, be in the movie. Because like they were gonna like market her like with like her likeness and like all this merchandise and stuff, and this everything, and then not to give her like, her, what she's owed for, doing these movies. So it kind of sucks. I remember hearing too about the show. I was excited to see it too, because it's like, it's watching like someone grow up to like adulthood and seeing how how their life is now. And it's kind of funny that like they wanted to make the show like for all the kids that for everyone that grew up with them, and not necessarily for like younger kids. But like it's just weird how Disney doesn't see it that way, but then they'll like do all these like other like spin-offs of other like TV shows within like the Disney, like Star Wars and all that stuff. But they can't do some like it doesn't have to be like the whole like more than one season. It could be like a one season thing or something, but just because it's too controversial for Disney that they decide like not to do it, which is kind of disappointing. So I do hope like they could do it somewhere else, maybe like, but Hulu, but you never know. So
yeah, Disney has tight grasps on their markets, so maybe not. I'm taking How I Met Your Father as the second Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to count it as. But Yaya, what are your thoughts on this whole not getting more?
Yeah. Like while I was disappointed, because I was like so excited to see like more of like Hilary Duff, especially her, how she evolved as like an adult, and she definitely was the only Disney kid that didn't freak out. I think for me the only thing for her that now as an adult I feel bad, but when I was a teenager I hated her so much, is when she dated what's his name from Good Charlotte.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because I loved that time. By that time I was like an emo kid, and I was like, oh my god, she's such a poser, like she's not even punk and she's dating Good Charlotte. Like she's such a poser. But now as like now as an adult, like she was underage, he was an adult. It was that was actually really sad. I would have, if anything, I would have loved to see how they like would have transitioned like Lizzie McGuire like into an adult. Like how are they going to do her like little animation thing? She's not going to be a little tween animated like character anymore. It would have been like something else, and I would have loved to see the internal monologue of that, because I feel like it would have been great reflecting as for us as adults, because maybe those are thoughts. Her little like animated character was our thoughts as like a tween. Like I would have loved to see like the animated like inner thoughts of like an adult like character that I can relate to, because that's not a lot what you see with Disney films. Like like I should say like Raven's Home and everything, even other reboots, the new that 90s show, the one with Fuller House. It was just all the same thing, and that's the reason why I couldn't, even though it had the nostalgia feel, it wasn't enjoyable to watch, because it was like they didn't grow. And then for us it felt stagnant. At least for me it felt stagnant. That's why it didn't catch my attention anymore, because I grew out of that. I unfortunately had to mature, and at least a little bit. I grew up a little bit. I hope. And I'm glad that like Hilary Duff really wanted like a character that could relate to us, as opposed to just another like same thing, different like font, with different character, with like newer characters. But I'm sad that it didn't happen, but at the same time I'm glad that they didn't just give us another rehashed trash that we just would have been like
no, I get your point on that. I would have been sadder if it would have just been like Fuller House or Raven or something like that. But unfortunately guys, we are at the end of this. We have been talking for an hour about Lizzie McGuire, which I could talk way more about her. But I do want to get your final thoughts, and also final thoughts. Yaya, we'll start with you.
Interesting movie. Was a lot better as a kid than as an adult. Definitely. My favorite part was actually seeing her on the runway with the LED like dress, and it pulled out of the power cord, because this was like what 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, 20 years ago. And then now, like the fact that we have LEDs on our clothes, like easy peasy without the giant cable, it's just so interesting to watch. That was the one that I was like, oh my god, was having LED on clothes that hard? I don't remember that. Definitely, it's I'm not sure if I would watch it again if I didn't have to. but it did tickle like the happy like tween Yaya from 20 years ago.
Middle school Yaya.
Middle school Yaya. Again, but as I said, the best thing about this is the soundtrack. I think that's the one that brought me the most happiness, the most nostalgia. The fact that it brought me back, like in the beginning where she's like in her bedroom singing and stuff. That's still something that I actually still do. So it's like in a way, it did reflect. It made me happy to see like how I grew up, how much I have grown, but at the same time kept that like tween preteen Yaya like still here at the same time. But I don't know if I would recommend other people watch this if you don't have to. Excuse me. Maybe, as I said, if you grew up with this, definitely maybe give it once or twice just to like have the nostalgia. But if you really have not watched it and you don't have to, just just listen to the soundtrack.
No, I am everything you said, Yaya. I am right there with you. So I don't even have to say if I recommend this movie because you just said everything I wanted to say. Toni, what are your final thoughts on this movie and would you recommend?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my internet is still going in and out, so I do apologize. I respectfully disagree, and I will not stand for any Lizzie McGuire slander. No, I listen. The tween market right now, their options for entertainment and age-appropriate entertainment aimed at them, there seems to be just like this really weird dichotomy of either like this really corny, and it's even Disney Channel programming that's currently on the air now. I tried to watch some of it, and I'm just like, this is no. Absolutely not. It's not. It's the same kind of like wooden playing to the rafters kind of acting, even though you're on a TV show. Every line is meant to be a punchline, but the lines aren't that funny kind of thing. Or it's all the way at the other end, and it's this CW melodramatic, like grittiness. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, it works when it can work, when it's intentional, but that just seems to be a formula that they're applying as opposed to actually making something that they feel suits the style. And there never really seems to be much in the middle. So I will say that as much as we can definitely make fun of the campiness of this, I enjoy camp. I like it. I dig it. I dig especially age appropriate stuff that can be silly, but they're in on the joke about it. I hate shows that treat kids and specifically teenagers like idiots. I never felt like this era of Disney Channel programming really veered off into treating their audience and therefore their characters like idiots. So I mean, like, kids are idiots all the time, but I mean, like, wait for them to prove it before you start treating them like that. Yeah, so I really do appreciate it for that level. I do agree though that if it's not your cup of tea, then it's just not your cup of tea. But I, with everything in our programming just kind of becoming more and more like, extreme to either level of either just being so like disconnected from reality or being so mired in reality, but reality seems to be a code word for misery and melancholy. It just makes me sad for not much kind of occupying the middle ground, which is this sort of like light, frothy, this is okay, it's harmless, it's fluff, it's I'm not going to be mad about if like any of my nieces or nephews were like, hey, I'm watching Lizzie McGuire. Am I upset that maybe my 8-year-old nephew'd be like, oh my God, I love Euphoria? I'd be like, yeah, we might need to pay attention to your parental controls. So it's just stuff like that. And obviously, like, there's a lot of different things that we could pull in. I definitely don't want to be that old fuddy-duddy that's like, kids today don't know good entertainment. But I like the campiness of it all. I like the over-the-top nature. I think that's part of the conceit of Lizzie McGuire, which is something that definitely set itself apart, from other kids programming of the time. Yeah, so I bring back Lizzie McGuire, please.
Yeah, no, I get what you're talking about. Steph, what are your final thoughts, and would you recommend this movie?
So my final thoughts movie, it's a fun movie to watch. I definitely, if I were to watch it again, it'll probably be like a cleaning, doing something. If you want to like have something to watch, but not like you don't need to be focused on it, it's definitely like a movie for that. And like I was thinking, because like I have like, you know, a 5-year-old niece, maybe like 5-6 years down the line, I could like show her this and not feel like, you know, doesn't feel like it's gonna be like too threatening for her to watch. Like it's like, because like not everything has to be so like realistic. Like you still need to have like that kind of like, you know, the air of like, you know, like this like fantasy, because you know the real world is like, it's crazy enough. Like you don't need your entertainment to be like that all the time. So especially for like teenagers and tweens, and they're like trying to grow up and like figure themselves out and everything like that. So but yeah, it's definitely a movie I'd watch if I need to get something done, but I needed background noise. It's a background noise movie. That's what it is. So
yeah, my background. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also do want to point out, this is a perfect time capsule of the time, because I really do hate how like some of the stuff from this era is just completely disconnected from like what people were actually wearing or listening, or you know, like it perfectly captures like
that fashion. Oh my god.
What we were wearing,
bun, like
what we were listening to, like
like all the weird like things hanging off, all the like raggedness of
we loved an embellishment. We loved it.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, I do want to say that last dress she wore for the concert, though, I love that dress with the tearaway and then the bell bottom. Like, that was my favorite.
There's no reason to love that dress, and it still works.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Iridescence. Yes. Okay.
But that is all the time that we have today, guys. I want to thank you guys for coming and talking about Lizzie McGuire with me. Please go ahead and tell everybody out there where they can find you on social medias, not in real life, because that's creepy, like we've talked about Taken earlier in the movie or in the podcast. But Toni, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you out.
You guys can find me on all the social medias at the Toni Sanchez, Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z. Yes, please do not accept rides on mopeds from Italian strangers. That's not a good idea.
Unless you're gonna steal the moped.
Oh. Nice. And Yaya, go ahead and let everybody out there know where they can find you.
Well, you can find me here on Twitch Monday, Wednesdays, usually Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I stream a lot of different games. I do horror, I do Pokemon, I do other stuff. So you can find me there. You can find me on YouTube at Jade Yaya, where I talk about Chinese history, Chinese culture, Chinese traditions, and all that fun stuff. And then you can follow me on any social media, TikTok, Instagram, all that fun stuff, either at Jade Yaya or at My Hamachi.
Nice. Thank you. And Steph, where can they locate you at?
Well, I have like a personal Instagram account. It's the Thrift Nerd on Instagram, and also I run like Bob's Burgers meetups like at conventions. So that's Teen Apocalypse. So yeah.
Nice. Definitely, because conventions are out there, and trust me, a lot of our viewers will go and find you. Yeah. But thank you all for tuning in. And like I mentioned, Taken earlier, we do at Nom Talk Network have a unique set of skills, so don't try us. But please sure to join our Discord to keep this conversation going, as well as subscribing to our other platforms at Nom Talk Network. Tune into our next show, which is going to be the 1998 Godzilla, which is going to be coming up, which is going to be really good. But I am your host, Erric Ramirez. You can find me on all social media platforms at Heartless7, that's HARTL, the number 3SS7. But until next time, everybody out there, have a nomorific day.